What's a problem only attractive people have? Story 1. People assume that you just walk around and think you are better than everyone else. When you meet someone for the first time who you have already crossed paths with, they say things like, "I'm surprised how nice you are," or "I thought you were in before we spoke." Story 2. Guys constantly shooting their shot. I went out with a very attractive woman and couldn't believe how often people hit on her or were overly friendly or alternatively hated her. It was eye-opening. Story 3 depends on how attractive you are and in what way you are, but people only finding value in you based on your looks. A very attractive woman might be seen only through a lens of being beautiful, while the other traits of a not really attractive woman will be more focused on. Story 4. I was friends with a really attractive guy, almost model status. He would get hit on a lot, even when he was out with his girlfriend or just hanging with the guys not wanting attention. I'm sure it can get annoying, especially for their significant other. Story 5. People may assume that there must be something wrong with you if you are single. People may doubt your intelligence or make other unfair assumptions about you based on your perceived attractiveness. Things like that you enjoy attention, that you are crazy, that you are vapid and shallow, promiscuous, that you have never experienced rejection, or that you have always been attractive. People may at times dismiss or diminish your struggles or dissatisfaction with your life, most notably when it comes to connecting with others, because you may be perceived as particularly privileged due to being attractive. You may be judged harshly for being in a relationship with someone perceived as dramatically less attractive than you. Story 6. Difficulty with dating. No one approaches you, only stares. Anytime a guy has asked for my number, it always ended up with them asking for pics and not asking to take me on a date. You're objectified and used as a source of ego validation and boosting. Story 7. Someone very close to me is very traditionally beautiful. From the outside, looking in at her situation, it can cause its own brand of insecurity. When people have told you your entire life how gorgeous you are, you definitely have a standard you are pressured to uphold. I'm happy being an average level of attractive. I'm cute, but not gorgeous. It had served me well. Story 8. Being too attractive in high school makes you lazy because you basically get all the attention you already want. It's usually the popular kids who end up with the jobs and the unpopular kids driving the Porsches later in life. Nobody would expect that in high school. Story 9. They tend to be more isolated. Most people won't approach a good-looking person for a number of reasons: jealousy, anger, fear of rejection, don't want to be ignored when others come around. They make people feel insecure about their own looks, etc. Often a person doesn't even know they're attractive and don't understand why they have few or no friends. People shy away from them. Attractiveness is kind of like being anorexic. Anorexics look in the mirror and see how fat they are when they're literally skin and bones. Same goes for attractiveness. Their eyes are too big, their nose is too weird, they got a quirky smile, their teeth aren't right, and so on. The people who generally approach very attractive people are confident they can score with them, or they're not into with them. Gay men and straight women. Story 10. Truthfully, I was a pretty selfish, unempathetic person until I was in my early 20s. I rarely faced consequences for my bad behavior. Things just worked out for me. I could be a bad friend, a bad partner, a bad student, or bad employee, and it didn't matter. People wanted to be around me anyway. Authority figures always gave me a pass even when they shouldn't have. I used to be very unsympathetic to people's problems because I'd up constantly and face no repercussions. I was confused once why my friend was so stressed about her DUI. When I was driving while intoxicated and under 21, the cop just drove me to the station, not cuffed, and had my sister come get me. He even pulled over a few times so I could throw up. He didn't even file a report. I should have gone to jail. In my early 20s, I thankfully realized that my pretty privilege had led me to be and I straightened up. Story 11. I've noticed that my most beautiful women friends are treated horribly by males. It's like men lose their minds and don't know how to treat them as human. My friends have been picked up, literally lifted off the ground by strangers, received wildly offensive messages, and dealt with men who only saw them as an object. I don't envy them that experience at all. Story 12. My female friends saw me as competition. My male friends saw me as a goal. I've been passed over in dating situations because I'm seen as out of their league, only for them to confess later they had feelings for me. In work situations, I'm seen as a threat and have been actively kept down mostly by woman superiors. I'm a down-to-earth, objectively humble person. I'm also conventionally attractive, look substantially younger than my age. When I was younger, I was described as a bombshell or a smoke show. I have severe trust issues, and I've never had a real friend in my life. Now I'm just lonely. Story 13. I am not good looking anymore, but I used to be. I worked as a model for several years, 16 till about 25, but also got 2 degrees and work in a professional field for a long time. Stereotypical American attractiveness. Tall, thin, blonde, blue-eyed. Kept my looks into my 40s. What others are saying is true. You never know if a guy is your friend. Girls can be very mean. For my first real professional high-paying job, I heard people say that I only got hired BC. The hiring manager liked how I looked, undermining all the work I did as a single mother to work through uni and my previous jobs. I've gained weight and suffer from a couple of autoimmune disorders that have impacted my facial features. I don't like how I look, but I have won a few awards honors at work, and no one undermines my qualifications' merit. Story 14. Nearly everybody is nice to you, but you don't know the intent. I used to be a handsome young man and was sometimes in tears as women would lie, scheme, and misbehave to sleep or be with me. Some were absolute angels and they got hurt by evil women stepping over them to get to you. Story 15. One problem attractive people face is definitely dealing with those crazy high expectations. Like, people assume they have it all figured out, but sometimes they just want to chill and be themselves without all that pressure. Plus, the whole, are they into me for me or just my looks? Dilemma can be a real mind bender. It's like, can't we just vibe without all the extra? Story 16. Being stalked and or harassed, assaulted. I lost a lot of weight post-high school, had a major glow-up, and realized that life is not for me. I had multiple stalkers. One grabbed me by the neck with a knife and tried to kidnap me. Another got access to my apartment keys through means of gaining work at my building and watched me sleep at night. Another tried dragging me in his car. The list goes on. I would be harassed the most when I dressed down, baggy clothes, book bag, etc., versus dressing up. So I dolled myself up as much as I could to avoid just being approached. At some point, I gave up and slowly started gaining weight again. I'm nowhere near the crazy high weight I used to be in high school, but also not as skinny as I was during those times. Story 17. Any attractive woman at my old work who's on a good career trajectory, especially one of my bosses who was genuinely good, one of the guys who she helped, said this. She clearly had her way to the top. Never mind the fact she's a shit-hot boss who looked after you during your family tragedy and got you some free time off. Let's just be horrible because she's pretty and also happens to be your boss. Story 18. Part of my job is to look good, and I've worn a bikini at work. I'm amazed at how many people have called me a stuck-up behind my back. Like, sheesh, I'm just walking to the break room. I didn't know I needed to stop and say hi to everyone looking at me. I've also heard the regular employees tearing down the model employees. OMG, that one has stretch marks. So what, we all do. And she told me she didn't even realize this was a bikini gig or she wouldn't have accepted it. Just be nice to pretty girls, okay? Story 19. As a guy. Rejection reactions. People can get really unconsciously offended even if you politely say decline in advance. Deer in the headlights interactions. People's minds just blank out. Holding a conversation becomes almost entirely up to me. Only other attractive or confident people or those already in relationships are comfortable around you. It generally results in attractive people having attractive friends. Complimenting people is difficult because what is commonplace for you will almost certainly be rare and easily misconstrued for them. Jealousy. Groups of girls will fight each other over you and just end up ruining the friendships for everyone. Meeting a couple usually involves hostility from the guy. The unique kind of loneliness and isolation. It's not as crushing as other kinds, but people just assume you are okay, are dismissive of any relationship troubles, etc. They assume you're doing something better / more fun, or would rather be somewhere else. Not really. I'm doing the same things everyone else does. Story 20. Going with the thousands of others who said the same when you're not sure who your friends are. I'm not a supermodel, but I'm no bridge troll either. However, I get a lot of male friends, which is sad because I get along better with males, want to be friends and then drop the I love you card at the drop of a hat. It's weird because I never flirt or validate their pining. I'm also autistic and can't exactly grasp nuance as well as the average person. It's entirely possible what I perceive as being nice is actually leading them on. Story 21. It's not as good as it sounds. I often get called a twink or toy by fellow guys. It has its perks. Yeah, it's easy to get female attention. However, it's never serious. It's more because of lust, or they want someone who they think is out of their league. Same way guys see a girl who is considered hot, they just want to hook up and then show off and flex about it with the bros. Story 22. I made a judgment call not to a friend and they ghosted me. On top of that, I make so many frivolous friends I can't count. I have random guys. I barely started talking to asking me to wingman for them because they're not confident. I've had guys try to fight me because me and their girlfriend had a conversation. I'm straight, but am constantly hit on by gay men who won't take no for an answer. I have to watch my words because someone will occasionally do what I say, even if it's meant as a joke. Like, how do I accidentally end up with a bottle of alcohol and have someone hope I will owe them a favor? I'm not even that attractive. I'm a 7 normally and an 8.5 when I clean up. I think my personality has a lot to do with any other points I'm missing. That being said, holy shit, people are disingenuous. I've been near blackout drunk and had to be the responsible one and make sure people got home safe because they just wanted to be around me and hope something would happen. Shit's stupid stressful, and I'm barely starting to acknowledge the fact I'm attractive. Story 23. If you're more on the introverted side like I am, it can become socially exhausting. People give you attention, invite you to stuff, try to be your friend, etc. Then either you get overwhelmed or exhausted trying to put up boundaries, or don't reciprocate social etiquette properly, or you end up disappointing people constantly for not living up to their expectations. List goes on. Story 24. People think that I'm very rude and arrogant. Even my closest friend, she thought I'm very arrogant and all, but later got to know the real me. Like, I do not get a lot of compliments and people feel intimidated by me. I can sense that energy. I get a lot of people, including men and women, checking me out by looking up and down, but they will be too scared to talk to me, so they will just stare. People assume that men are crazy behind me, but that's not the thing. I naturally can't be friends with everyone and anyone. I have to be very careful as jealousy is very common, so I avoid insecure people at all costs. Professors are nicer to me. Obviously, it doesn't have to do only with my looks, but especially male professors are extra nice. Strangers are kinder. Whenever I'm with my male cousin, his female friends looked at me and was raised her eyebrows thinking, I'm dating my cousin lol. She had a crush on him, but I had to convince her that I am nowhere romantically interested in my cousin or her crush. I once encountered a couple at gym. The lady was staring at me like I asked for her kidneys. She kept looking at me angrily, thinking I might steal her husband, like seriously. She tracked all my moments and became extra cautious if her husband was near me. Some people hate me for no reason. Lastly, people start to believe that you are attractive when you believe it works. Trust me. Story 25. I'm fairly socially awkward, and at 24 years old, I still don't know what to say when someone compliments me. I am always polite and think it is the sweetest thing, especially coming from the people I take care of at work as a CNA, primarily the elderly. But overall, it makes me feel uncomfortable. It's always appreciated, and I know people are being kind. But I also just don't want to talk to people in general, especially when it's about me, lol. Story 26. Saying no to so many people can get emotionally exhausting and can make navigating relationships hard. Back when I was attractive, my GF wouldn't take me around her friends because they would be flirty the entire time. I had several friends of different GFs ask me to have with them while I was dating their friend. Made everything more complicated. Story 27. All my exes were very attractive women. If they meet new guys, the guys either start out wanting to get in bed with them or end up wanting to do it later down the line. If they meet girls, the girls tend to be overly protective around them when socializing. That is, doesn't bring them out when guys are there, etc. Of course, I'm not saying this is everyone, but a fair amount were. And even when I was around, I could tell that that was the case. For myself, I'm not psychically attractive, but have a very outgoing and fun personality that does attract quite a few girls. For me, it's really difficult to find female friends, as a lot of them end up liking me. Starts off great, but I'd always have to become extra cold to them to make sure nothing happens. Story 28. Getting too much attention. You can never be invisible or left alone. People tell you to smile, and if you're in a bad mood or not on your best behavior, you're branded very quickly. Other women automatically dislike you. You're usually harassed in every walk of life, and unless you own it, it can eat away at you and destroy your self-esteem and confidence. You're an object first and foremost. Men want to you. It's a gift and a curse. Story 29. Everyone assumes there's no way a girl like me is single. I'm into racing, track my sports car. I'm a gearhead and work on car projects often. I do electrical work and install various devices in people's vehicles. In my full-time job, I'm a medical professional, 25 years in top 10 facilities. I am well compensated, have zero debt, both my vehicles are paid off, and have never had children. Divorced 7 years from a wonderful ex-husband who I'm on good terms with. No criminal record. I'm also feminine in that I do crafty things and enjoy typical female-oriented hobbies. I keep a very clean home, never smoked, and drink socially once every couple of weeks. Lighter brown hair, blue eyes, 5'7" and 125 pounds. Since my passion is patient care, I'm very good at connecting with folks, and my intuition is off the charts. I never get hit on or approached. How in the hell is a girl like you single? Assumption that I'm taken. That's why. I'm dreading online dating, but I guess it's my only option. I've so much free time to give someone. I miss loving someone and being a partner. Story 30. I am only recently experiencing being somewhat attractive. At first, it was unnerving how many people stare at you. Took me a while to figure out that it's hard to tell the difference between a glare and a stare at a glance. It's harder to make deep connections friends because so many people are intimidated by you or attracted to you. Also, it's weird talking to people you know you're more attractive than, especially when they are telling you how much more beautiful you are. Like, I have no idea what to say. You don't want to be too confident, but you for sure don't want to be dishonest and make up something attractive about them. They know you're being insincere. I just say thank you. Story 31. Losing most of your friends as soon as you get in a relationship. As soon as you gain a pound, everyone thinks it's their duty to point it out, even though they know it's due to illness. Some of them can barely hide their smiles when they say it too. The constant attention and gossip. People trying to constantly prove to themselves that your looks is all you're good at so they feel better about themselves. Not feeling safe in clubs, on the street, at the market, etc., because you've been catcalled, touched, and followed home. Constant fear of losing your partner when you lose your good looks. Friends always being jealous of you and some of them trying to copy you, including repeating word-by-word stuff that you said. Your mental health is a joke to people around you. You have pretty privilege, so how bad can it be? Story 32. I am 48 now, but I used to be quite the looker in my 20s. The biggest one is that you realize the majority of your social connections would never talk to you if not for your looks. People are fake. They want to be around you because they view you as a social ladder they can climb. People try to be friends with you because they want to be seen with you. The worst is that this also applies to relationships. Women will go out of their way to date you even if they don't genuinely like you, just because you increase their social status by dating them. You begin to question basically everybody who is even remotely nice or friendly with you, even those close to you. Some will thrive in that environment because they don't value honest relationships. Others will be depressed and isolated by it. Story 33. I had a friend at the time introduce me to his guy friends. I am a girl, and one of the guys in the group was incredibly handsome. Instamodel worked on it really hard and cared a lot about his appearance. I started going out for drinks with the group and hanging out, and one night while good-looking guy was drunk, he paused and said it was so awesome that I was ace, because he's never had a female friend. Usually a girl starts hanging out, and one of the guys in the group tries to get with her, or she falls for the good-looking guy, and it always causes drama, so he was super thankful to be able to just have a girl in the group to hang out with. He was actually super shy around girls. He was the chubby kid in high school and worked super hard to look the way he did, but he had no experience just talking to girls. Most of the girls that approached him just wanted to get in his pants. He's now about to be a dad, and I could not be happier for him. Story 34. Being attractive can have the adverse effect of not having to utilize your ability to be resourceful. A world of attention and making it difficult to relate to other people's struggles. A simple example is when the attractive person has a fun chat and tip of the day from the local coffee shop. In the meanwhile, the average individual from the same place getting their cup of joe without a smile or just a simple goodbye. Story 35. Loneliness. My ex-wife was gorgeous. When we started dating, I asked her why she often ate alone or why people would be kind of weird around her. She said she didn't know, but she felt unlikable and was very lonely. She was arguably one of the most beautiful women at her agency. I was the lucky one, because I was the first guy that asked her about her college classes and her poetry. I thought I had no chance of ever being considered a boyfriend or someone she'd date, so it never occurred to me even ask her on a date. I felt like she was a great talker and friend. Story 36. Here are 10. They don't have friends of the opposite that are straight. Everyone assumes things about you that are immediately dismantled by a conversation, but those assumptions make them afraid to even come near you. Even if you're the kindest person in the world, you're terrifying to approach even casually. Never being sure of a person's intentions, especially from girls to guys. She can't treat her guy friends normally and hug/roughhouse/compliment/tease because far too often friendly banter is misconstrued as interest. For girls, guys are always pursuing, and such a large percentage of other girls see you as their competition, so won't even smile at you. People try to manipulate, gaslight you relentlessly. Even if it's not romantically, career professionals will frequently assume that have no idea what they're talking about in conversation and will either try to scam you into buying something you don't need or gaslight you into thinking that you will need it later. They also can be quite condescending about even mundane topics. For really attractive people especially, you have to defend your home address because people will routinely stalk you. People will sneak pictures of you, a lot of them. There are places you can never go alone, especially girls. It's the precise reason girlfriends stay in such tight contact when they feel unsafe, unsure about a person. You make multiple routes of escaping. This applies to every girl that's even remotely attractive, especially, but she always forms a plan to get out of an interaction that's becoming uncomfortable and will frequently ask her friends to help her do it. The one I'm more familiar with is to take the hand of a close friend, usually a guy, as a sign that they're uncomfortable, and then that's a sign to leave. Story 37. People always making jabs or trying to take you down a peg because they assume you get compliments often, when in actuality everyone assumes this and all you get are insecure jabs. Also, many guys won't introduce you to their girlfriends because they're subconsciously intimidated by you or something. It's so strange. I've had girls tell me down the line that their boyfriends before the first time they met me would tell them something disparaging about me, something unflattering, sometimes not even true. I wish I could say these are isolated incidents, but this has happened to me with several friends or never meeting them for like 5+ years. It's sad because these guys all know I'd never make a pass at their girls in any way, shape, or form and have no track record doing such things. Story 38. You can't outright reject people. You have to like everyone. If you don't like someone, they take it personally. People always notice you. You just want to be left alone. But they want to chat, and if you're not friendly, they take it personally. People notice everything you do. If you don't show up to something, they notice it. If you leave early, they notice it, etc. You have to be everyone's friend. I've been conventionally ugly and I've been conventionally pretty. I'll take the latter. Story 39. Growing up, it was constantly being treated as a trophy. As an adult, is people think you are not, can't be smart. It makes me doubt myself all the time, and I feel like I need to prove myself. My husband, who is the attractive of the two, is constantly being treated as a toy. People grab him at parties. Happened twice, once face and once arms. Mind-blowing. People push so many boundaries and try to conquer him, while he is with me or not. Story 40. People have asked me for my name or number at an inappropriate time. One time I was trying to move my car from a commercial loading zone to avoid a parking ticket outside a weed shop. Had back surgery a couple weeks prior, so I have no makeup, in a shapeless dress, and I'm using a cane with a viable limp. Appreciate the open mind to hooking up with disabled people, but clearly not while the meter maid is reprimanding. Or in high school, I was warming up for a softball game and a guy yelled across the field, #6, you have a nice ass. It's distracting and embarrassing when half your team is laughing or mad about it. Story 41. I can only speak from observation but constant attention. Everywhere they went, people stared or commented or approached them. Sometimes people would get nasty when they were rejected or were jealous and would make some rude comment, usually about their looks. As a result, even though they were really pretty, they were also quite insecure and kind of vain, always checking that they were the prettiest one in the room and being bummed out if they weren't, getting involved in scoring people's looks out of 10, etc. Life is very looks-focused when you're pretty. Story 42. They question their life's purpose when their looks fade as they get older or after they get married. Like people don't stare at them anymore or hit on them anymore. I had a friend who was always chased by guys when she was younger. Then she was in a long-term relationship and she gets older. One day a guy was hitting on her friend but not her. She was used to guys hitting on her, not her friend. That time she took it very hard. She sort of let herself go after that, and now she's gained a lot of weight. Now she's sort of lost her looks and has not much personality to go with. She married her long-term BF, though. He went the same path as hers. Gained a lot of weight and lost all of his hair. Looks aren't forever, PPL. Story 43. In my 20s and mid-30s, I was compared to a young Ryan Gosling all the time. Now that I am 44, I get told I look like Scott Bakula. I don't know if that is good or bad. I know that being attractive as a married man, you always wonder if you still have it. Age changes how everyone looks. Some age gracefully, some turn old in a matter of years. It is difficult to accept you may not be as attractive as you once were. Conversely, also makes life more than just looks. Story 44. Stalker since a young kid. Realizing the police can't do much, so you need to protect yourself all the time, and that changes the way you live your life. Arrived at your car and have messages with invitation and telephone numbers. Isn't that funny? Having to know where you are going to meet with friends all the time, and if you are going to be alone anytime, like walk from transportee to the meeting point alone. Pay special attention to clothes you dress every day and use little to no makeup. At work, be the best you can be. Improve yourself daily so people don't think you got the job for your looks. The harder you study and work, the best your career goes, which means working even harder. Therefore, since young, I have been offered good job positions. It's an endless circle. Always second-guess any man, help, or friendship. During university time, I had an assistante that was always testing me in front of the class, which make me study harder. Once caught me on a corridor, grabbed my arm, and angrily told me that I couldn't be both pretty and smart. Funny thing, I don't consider myself beautiful, just different. Story 45. I, female, work in a male-dominated workplace. I'm on my way to management, and I have a crazy good work ethic because I love my job. But somehow, When I talk to people about my goals, it circles back to, you can do anything, you're beautiful. Completely diminishes my actual skills in the workplace and makes me want to quit, except I love the work too much. Story 46. As strange as it may seem, for men it's a two-edged sword. You have advantages in certain situations. People listen more closely to you in meetings, but judge you way harsher because the expectation is higher. Maybe a little bit because of a more competitive position from other men and women too. As unexpected as it is, people search to stand next to you if you are on your way up, but have a tendency to leave you faster if you're in trouble, as if unconsciously they may think, the guy shines bright so he gets always more attention, the good and the bad kind. I'm sure that's similar for women. Also, there seems to be a prejudice that attractive men are more selfish and more superficial, and also, what is not easy to detect at first, they seem to feel you're less tough because it was easier for you to climb to your spot. Story 47. They are objectified and have to work really hard to enforce their personal boundaries. When I was in graduate school, a guy who was obsessed with me had his BFF move into the apartment next door to spy on me. Another guy, a friend, roofied me, but miraculously, I think an angel slapped me. I woke up just in time. Sadly, I forgot about it immediately and only remembered it 30 years later when an acquaintance sent me an inappropriate photo, or I would have pressed charges and gone to the dean to get him expelled. Story 48. The most obvious is that attractive people don't have the same right to privacy that normal people do. It is like celebrity worship culture, but it isn't something you voluntarily sign up for by becoming famous. People feel entitled to know everything about attractive people. For example, if you're attractive, your relationship status and history is essentially part of the public record. Everyone will openly talk about it. People never feel bad talking about attractive people's backs the same way they would about anyone else. If someone found nudes from the hottest person at work or school, there is an enormous chance people will share them even if that is something they normally might not do. Story 49. Feeling like everyone is looking at you and you internalize it that you must look weird or people are judging you. If you don't realize it's because you're really pretty, which was my case, I couldn't accept I was stunning in my 20s. I caught on in my 30s, just in time for my 40s to take it away, LOL. You get very uncomfortable with it. It made me so incredibly self-conscious and low self-esteem when it was at the time of my life I should have had the most. I resonate with the saying youth is wasted on the young. Story 50. Haven't seen this one mentioned, but sometimes I think being overly attractive hinders your development and growth as a person. They don't learn a lot of the lessons other people learn at younger ages because they're so attractive that people don't want to tell them when they're being an asshat. Everyone wants to be their friend so much that they get sucked up to and often don't get the hard lessons most other people learn at young ages. It's almost like celebrity attention, and why I think when you look at celebrities, a large majority of them seem to have significant character flaws. Obviously not applicable to everyone, but I think it's actually quite common. That's my theory anyway. People need people to tell them their shit stinks sometimes, and attractive people don't get told their shit stinks. Source: bitter, not overly attractive person. Story 51. Choosing the wrong people. See how that went for Elizabeth Taylor. When every man on the planet finds you irresistible and rich men pursue you with priceless diamonds, it's hard to be discerning about who the love of your life is and who you're compatible with. I've got a friend who is just astonishingly beautiful. Her love life is a disaster because all men become totally mesmerized by her. She doesn't know who to choose or why. I once saw a man walk into a lamppost because he was staring so hard at her in the street. Everywhere we go, just the staring. I'm happy to be the less attractive friend. Story 52. When normal people get upset at their spouse, some amount of what are my other options calculations probably occur in their head. Some large number has to think, well, maybe I won't find someone better, and then they work it out. Really attractive people you would imagine. No, there are literally millions of options out there for them. Someone more attractive, younger, richer, whatever. Story 53. People will like them and hang out with them just because they are attractive, which means that they don't have to develop their personality in order to get friends and be perceived as likable. When you aren't attractive and you want people to like you, it is beneficial for you to be funny or talented or interesting or smart or successful or charming, etc. Not to say that attractive people can't be those things. They are just in a position which provides less incentive to cultivate those qualities because they will always have someone to show interest in them or what have you. Story 54. Speaking as someone that people consider pretty and comes off gentle and unassuming despite being taller than average, you attract a kind of people, usually older men, that think they have some kind of unspoken claim to you. They invade your space, they touch you without permission or welcome, usually subtly and frequently. They talk down to you in a coddling, head-patting sort of way, and they often make comments that are just a little inappropriate but not quite enough to make a big deal about. Ones that make you question yourself, wondering if they even meant it that way to begin with, if they just didn't phrase it well. All of these little things to slowly encroach on you, try to pick at your social defenses, make their behavior normal. And people tend to be a hurry to look the other way when witnessing uncomfortable social situations, especially when it's not overt. So getting offended, jerking or shoving back, or otherwise acting out makes you look like you're overreacting, like you're the problem. You end up needing to learn to be curt and short with your answers, but polite. Gently but deliberately move when they display that physicality, and otherwise cut them off at every opportunity with the same kind of subtlety they use. They usually eventually get the hint, or at least realize they're at a dry well. It can be exhausting, especially if you hate the attention, and things like it sort of put you on edge around everyone, wondering how they might be trying to manipulate you. Story 55. Nobody ever asking me out or approaching me. The only ones that do are the cocky men that just wanna and dip once they've gotten to experience you, or the weird older couples looking for some hot young snatch lmao. I started dressing like a bum when I go out because it's the only time people will approach me. Also, nobody takes your accomplishments seriously, and most other women hate you for being pretty and successful. So basically, you have no genuine friends and no genuine relationships because men are afraid to ask me out, and once they do, they get insecure and stop pursuing me. My one and only actual BF legit told me that I made him feel insecure and like a blob, and that I should be with someone in the same league as me. Broke my heart. I thought he was the sun after a cold, scary night, but he never believed me. Story 56. Being unwantingly elevated and people trying to humble you or compare you to the pinnacle of attractiveness. Almost as if they look so much harder to critique you because they assume you do not get critiqued. Any little change, such as weight gain or a bad haircut, is jumped on. Makes it almost impossible to not submit to the made-up looks hierarchy and just be a human being when you're constantly being shoved into it, either by being elevated or torn down. Story 57. Want to share this story? I'm currently residing on an apartment with my schoolmates because my house is far from the university I go at. I'm considering myself not ugly, but random strangers always want to say hi and talk to me. I'm M19BTW, and most of the people who finds me attractive is gay, but I ain't one. Last night, my roommate who is gay is hugging my biceps. I'm skinny as hell, and he's rubbing his fingers on it like with. I pretended sleeping. I don't know if that's UL assault or anything. But for the last few weeks, I'm distant to my friends. I even stay at my house longer than usual just because I don't want to come back in the apartment. Story 58. I personally wouldn't say I'm super attractive. I'm no bombshell, but I do get a lot of male attention. Men constantly staring but never approaching. It's also annoying that when they do get the confidence to talk to you, the first thing that comes out of the mouth is, you probably have a line of men hitting on you. You probably break a lot of hearts. You also don't know if they're just using you, if they're really interested in you, or they just want to hit it and quit it. This also has to do with the fact that I've been told I have a nice body. I've been told by other women that you have the body women go pay thousands for, and other women just straight up mean mugging me. So because of all this, I'm automatically perceived as shallow or arrogant, even though I'm actually a really nice person. Just a little introverted and socially awkward. I genuinely don't know how to respond to compliments. Story 59. I work with models and have heard them commiserate about insecure people hanging their own self-worth on your reactions. You're constantly on a social pedestal against your will. For example, someone sees you on the street and smiles at you. Maybe you didn't notice them in time, or you're stuck in your own thoughts. They perceive this as rejection or coldness or somehow intentional, a reflection of their perceived place in the world. And you will watch in horror as they react to this with defeat and become self-conscious. You can see their posture change because you rejected them. It causes a lot of social anxiety because you'll watch in real time as other women compare themselves and hurt their own feelings despite no ill will or involvement from you whatsoever. They also assume you're mean because you're pretty. Story 60. Attracting weird people a lot all the time. It's always the ugly creeps that are the most bold, I swear. People think you're going to be rude or off-putting or having a weird idea of you on a pedestal, which I get most humans do. People admiring you, love to be seen by you, but do not love you. My friend tells me it's to be adored but not loved, as well as fear of looks disappearing. Need to show up beautiful all the time. Understand people see your looks before they see you, so just the idea of knowing you're constantly being perceived and being looked at doesn't matter if it's positive. I know it's a double-edged sword, but if you feel you are constantly being judged both good and bad ways, and people constantly come up to you and compliment you, they are essentially validating people are indeed just doing that. People do ask me why I don't model a lot instead of my real job, which I wouldn't say is a problem per se. Also, the idea of changing. Like say you don't look your best, maybe you put on a couple pounds. People know you at your peak and feeling off. And them recognizing that gives me anxiety. Kind of like if you saw a classmate at the grocery store and you haven't showered in a week and you looking all crusty. To me, people seeing me as very beautiful just confirm my inner anxiety of constantly being perceived if you couldn't tell, ha ha ha. Now, I just try to live on knowing it is a fact of the matter. Story 61. The constant staring and attention. I've gotten used to it and am confident in myself, but new people I meet that come around with me often comment and ask if I notice or are uncomfortable with how many people stare or turn to look. Your partner being jealous of you and the attention you get. Them getting an ego because they're dating you, as if you're an object to boost their ego. Having a hard time finding deep connections in relationships. The pressure to always look my best because I always have. The fear of losing my looks and seeing myself start to age because I've always been beautiful, and it's part of who I am. That I have few authentic friendships. Women really do get jealous or insecure, and men secretly want the opportunity. Few people actually see me for who I am and my intelligence. People are shocked I'm smart, which is insulting. People don't take me seriously and devalue my opinion in professional settings, likely a woman problem though. Not being able to go unnoticed literally anywhere. People thinking they're entitled to your time. I am too nice and a people pleaser. Comes with the territory, but after years I've learned I can't feel bad for cutting it short because I don't have time or the energy for all these conversations and connections. I could list more, but I sound negative. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change my life and I'm not ungrateful. These are just things we deal with. Story 62. As someone who was overweight and worked really hard for the last year or so to get in shape, it's very noticeable how differently people treat you. Daft things like paying at the till and suddenly they want to speak and smile at you. Didn't happen when I was before. People holding the door open for you, just generally being treated with more respect. Obviously, as nice people being nice to you, that isn't the problem, but it's eye-opening and annoying seeing how differently people treat you. Story 63. When I was thinner, the constant fear of being preyed upon by the opposite was an ever-looming thought. Having to go to the bathroom in pairs, looking around to see who may be around if I have to walk to my car in the dark. Now that I'm heavier, the fear has subsided, but the constant judgmental looks and the, if only you're thinner, you have such a beautiful face quotes, are just as bad. Story 64. I'm quite lonely, really. A lot of my friends got settled and don't socialize as much, so I keep making new friends. They get feelings for me. Sometimes it's clear they are more social climbers. One guy who got feelings for me spread rumors about me, which has been really upsetting because I hate gossip. I used to be quite fat, but I think people found me more likable then. Now I have an autistic fat girl personality and a hot woman's body, and it's just hard feeling people perceive me. Story 65. People project their relationship fantasies onto you and don't actually see you for who you are. They treat you as a trophy, and when you deviate from the script they have for you, you disappoint/anger them. You trigger all kinds of unconscious insecurities and wounds in people all the time, and it makes them feel some type of way and treat you in ways that aren't always fair. You get perks, but these often come with transactional expectations. You are often lonely because people assume your looks make you popular, when often it makes you less approachable. Story 66. Being dismissed every time you have a legitimate problem because you're too pretty for it. Getting stalked at a higher rate. Being expected to give strangers your time regardless of what's going on with you at a higher rate. Getting more unsolicited opinions on what you should do with your appearance next. Honestly, I don't think there's a single pretty privilege I've received that makes it worth it. Doors are excessively held for me, and it's generally looked at as only a pro and not a con, but if I'm not right behind you or have my hands full, all you're doing is making me feel rushed. And yes, I can see you blatantly staring at my ass in the glass door reflection as I walk through. Story 67. Realizing many people around you are shallow. If you were fortunate enough to have a glow up or be a late bloomer like myself, I noticed how shallow people are and that they are much nicer and positive towards you if you're pretty. It's like they perceive you better in every way than everyone else who aren't pretty. I experiences both sides, from being very fat to skinny again, and it's like seeing the world in 3D, like a sad reality. Story 68. I can't tell you how many opportunities or accomplishments I've gotten where I thought it was because of my work ethic or skill. Turns out whoever gave me the opportunity was hoping to get closer to me. Same with making friends. I hear about how smart they think I am or how funny. It isn't until they get intoxicated that they start saying I'm why and they always wanted me. I went through moments in my life where I felt my one special feature was being a symbol. I felt like no one really saw me for who I was. Story 69. It seems to bother other people. They treat you differently. Not in a good way, the actors. If you have some special privilege and power, and they seem to resent that, this seems to come from some attractive people that like to leverage their looks. It seems rare to find someone that's both attractive and hardworking. One other thing that was very frustrating was how long an attractive woman would take to get ready to go out. They could sit there for hours in for the mirror, you doing everything that they do. By that time, you don't even want to go out anymore. You just want to go to sleep. There's always the issue of being hit on all the time. It's like everybody wants to have with you, and if you don't be their B** teach, they don't want anything to do with you. And there's the other people that want to overpower you.